let's take just a moment to look at an example of using an app to make the whole process of using factor weightings easier. So in this example, we're looking at a woman's decision regarding whether she might quit her job in order to start a new business and take on additional risk associated with that, or just can the whole idea of starting a new business in order to reduce risk and keep the status quo at her current position, or a hybrid where she asks for half time at her job and tries to go for tries to develop her business on the side. So each of these has different kinds of possibilities tied into it. Some decisions are linked. For example, if she asks for half time, it could be that her employers recognize her long-term ambition and fire her, or on the other hand, they might offer incentives to stay and give her a raise, which could change the decision. So there's some unknowns, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to look at how to get really clear about what it is you care about most by looking at factor weightings. So if we just started right away by increasing or decreasing these factors for each of the decision options. So the option at the top here says quit to start business full-time. We can scroll over and this one says ask for half-time, and this one says stay at current job. But before we get to rating each of these on the criteria that matter, we need to know how much do those criteria matter. So we're going to look at those criteria, which in the article I call factors, and this is where you want to make sure that these factor weightings reflect how much you care about the various factors. So earning potential, for her, it wasn't that big of a deal because her husband was making a fairly good income, kids were out of the house, and at this point in her life, she didn't need to make a lot of money. She just wanted more happiness, autonomy, freedom. So that's why you see she put a 3 out of 9 under earning potential. But autonomy has a 5 out of 9 as far as its factor weighting. How important is it to her? And again, 5 and 3, those numbers are meaningless outside of the way they relate to the other ratings within this particular decision. So a 3 could be the highest rating if it's a scale of 1 to 3, but because she's using a scale of 1 to 9, a 5 is on the higher side. Financial security, not so important to her right now. She doesn't really need to rely exclusively on her income to be able to get by. Proud that she tried. This is a factor that she realized she wanted to get to the end of her life and look back and say, you know, I lived all out. And that's why there's an 8 out of 9 on that factor. Preserve the nest egg. She doesn't want to spend all her money on startup costs and capital needed to fund the new business idea. So she's got a 5. It's not like it's going to take all her money, but it's a factor she wants to consider as she looks at the options. Wake up excited to work. Now this is a high one, so she's rated that 7 out of 9. And of course, you could add additional options, but waking up excited to work was for this woman something that was more important than financial security or earning potential. In some ways, her philosophy is that being excited when you get to work actually tends to translate over the long term into higher earnings and a better quality of life, if nothing else. Recognizing that autonomy, this is something that I counseled her on a little bit, is just the degree to which autonomy has been shown in psychological research studies at work to be one of actually the highest factor that influences a sense of well-being in your work. So there's some things that we came up together. There are some of these factors that we came to a decision to include together, but most of them were her own original just thoughts and ideas. But once you have these factor weightings in place, then you're in a position where you can say, okay, how does the option for quitting to start a new business full-time, how does it do on the proud that I tried scale? And if it gets a 9 out of 9, and that's one of the factors that's highly weighted, that's going to make a big difference. And let's say waking up excited to work is a 9. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go across one of these factors at a time for each decision so that you can compare them. So that's a 9, but if halftime is a 6, If she was to stay at her current job, proud that she tried, it's a 0 because she didn't try. Another factor, the second one down, says wake up excited to work. It's a 9 out of 9 to quit and go full time, 4 out of 9 if she's going to ask for half time, and a 2 out of 9 if she stays at her current job, because there are some aspects of her current job that she actually does enjoy. And we just continue that process until we get down and we see that everything's been rated and you've looked back and forth and compared and said, yeah, I think these are right. And then you're going to just let the computer algorithm do the work. And in this case, 241 points goes to the idea of quitting to start the job full-time, the new business full-time. So that's just an example of how you can tap into software and or apps built for your phone, software for your computer, phone, or just use an Excel spreadsheet, or just pencil and paper if you prefer, to just do the math so that you don't have to hold all those different variables in your mind while you're trying to make a decision, because the human mind just simply isn't capable of holding that many numbers and factors in mind. But if you can make a logical decision about each of those factors and then see how they all relate at the end.